This show has been made possible with the continued support of Boomerang Partners with high conversions and payments up to 50%.
Howdy friends, it's time for another look at the iGaming news making headlines this week to see who exactly is trying to kill us. The only problem is there's not a lot of gambling news this week. However, I am prepared, and since Michael and the rest of the GPWA crew are still traveling back from Lisbon, I am free to discuss whatever I want, and there's no one to stop me. But I'm not going to get too wild. What I'd like to do is talk about something that a lot of us want to avoid: addiction. At some point, we all have to think about it because, after all, we work in the gambling industry, no matter what part we play. However, something just isn't adding up for me. Something just isn't right when it comes to addiction. As I look at the market in Great Britain, which, after all, is kind of the canary in the coal mine for the online gambling industry. The Gambling Survey of Great Britain recently found that 2.5% of the population, or 1.3 million people in the United Kingdom, have a problem with gambling. They're addicted. But there's a problem with the problem gambling numbers, because the National Gambling Helpline there got just over 53,000 calls in 2023, the same year that the National Health Service treated less than 2,000 people for gambling addiction. So 1.3 million, 55,000. Quite a disparaging difference. Now, I know that not everyone that has an addiction is going to seek help, but this says 96% of people with a gambling problem don't seek help. I'm not an expert. Maybe that's correct. Maybe it's not. Maybe people are gaming the system instead of actually having a gambling problem. Of course, it doesn't help our cause that headlines like this are prevalent everywhere in the media. This one claiming that the head of the UFC owes over $25 million in gambling debt to Red Rock in Las Vegas. Or what about this attention-seeking headline, where a passenger on a cruise ship jumped overboard because of a gambling debt? We know that many so-called news outlets love to sensationalize stories or write, let's call them clever headlines, in a never-ending quest for clicks. So, is that what this is? Is that what we're seeing now? Well, sort of. First, the CEO of the UFC, Dana White, is worth about $500 million. So his gambling debt is just about 5% of his net worth. To put that in perspective for the average person, if you had $50,000 saved up in the bank, that would be like you owed $2,500 in gambling debt. Not that much, really. And that cruise ship passenger that owed $16,000 and because of that ended his life and jumped into the ocean. Well, some people carry that much debt just on their credit cards or their car loan. Plus, he had $14,600 on him when he took his plunge into the ocean. By the way, he lived and was picked up by some guy on a jet ski. And adding insult to injury, he's also been charged criminally with failing to report the transportation of over $10,000 in cash into the United States. Wow. Even if the cash was all wet, I guess. The point is that while we certainly want to help those with legitimate issues, there are those sorts of people out there who like to exploit the system and take advantage of it whenever they can, which, of course, would skew the gambling statistics and gives our opponents more ammunition to use against us. And most importantly, perhaps, it actually hurts the players who really need the help. But hey, maybe this all really isn't about helping the people that are hurting so much as it is about shutting this industry down. And we're going to continue this conversation in the second half of the show. Welcome back. Before we continue with our discussion on addiction and how even the mention of the word addiction impacts our industry, I need to stop and let you know about a brand new APCW interview that we just published with GPWA Partners. While in London, I was able to speak with Dima, the big cheese at GPWA, about the markets they serve, their brands, accepted traffic sources, and so much more. Just visit the forums at GPWA if you'd like to watch that interview, or you could always drop in on our YouTube channel. Now, you might recall a story that we covered on this program a few months ago out of the European Union, where a German player tried to, shall we say, take advantage of the murky legal waters there between the EU and Germany, all in order to recover his gambling losses from an online casino based in Malta. You know, instead of simply acting like a responsible adult. So, whether an addict or not, this is clearly a manipulation by a player. That case is still in limbo. And before certain German members of the GPWA get their panties in a twist and all but hurt and rush in to defend this player as a matter of national pride, wait, because here's another dumbass and another lawsuit from America as a man in North Carolina is suing online gambling companies for exploiting his addiction. How did they exploit his addiction? Well, first, they raised his player status. Oh my God. I mean, just like Caesars and MGM do? Well, how could anyone resist that? Then they, exploited his addiction by emailing him promotional offers. Well, no one can simply delete those emails or unsubscribe from them. Come on, what was the guy supposed to do? And then third, as if the first two weren't enough, third, this player claims that the gambling companies actually told him to take out high interest loans to fund his gambling. These regulated gambling companies told him to take out high interest loans so that he could continue to gamble. Well, that sounds right. I mean, we've all seen those loan officers at casinos in Las Vegas, right? We've all walked past that payday loan booth in between the craps table and the slot machine. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this player also claims to suffer from depression and anxiety, and he's bipolar. Maybe that factors into his mental condition. I mean, paranoia for sure, right? But what's the point of all this? Even if all these players' claim is true, where is any player culpability at all None of them say, I have a problem. It's always someone else's problem that someone else has to pay for, someone else has to accommodate, and someone else has to abide by all these ridiculous rules. Because, after all, spoons make people fat, right? Pencils misspell words, right? And apparently, emails made this man gamble. You know what's sad? Is that there are real addicts out there, about 2% of the population if we want to be generous, and these fools that game the system are hurting the players that have real issues. Most of us might have a hobby or something that you could consider yourself addicted to, whether it's streaming or just FaceTime on your phone, food, sex, alcohol, adrenaline. I occasionally like to drive fast. I enjoy it, and not once has a police officer pulled me over, and I blame the car manufacturer for making a car with too much horsepower. Wasn't my fault. I couldn't help myself. I suffer from an addiction to speed. Yeah, I wonder how that would hold up in court. Yet, realistically, people could make that argument against gambling and win. All right, I'm gonna need something a little bit stronger than this, but next week, should the Lord tarry, I'll come back and we'll do it all again.